municipalities were intending to collect back the money. That was not the point.
Say it again.
At the beginning, when we took over government, let's say in the late 1980s, right? You will find the city of Pretoria as a municipal council with 10,000 residents, giving them water, clean, drinkable water every day, electricity, collecting waste. Those functions were not provided for by the municipality with an intention of recovering money which was spent to deliver the same service. In other words, municipalities were not selling services like it is the case today. Today, what they're doing, what you see in Amanskral and in Mpumalanga, the killing and everything, it's part and parcel of how you create chaos. And then out of this chaos, the hope is that private sector will come later on, rescue the situation, and then entrench itself in these spaces so that it's not easy to remove them. But it also means that they can charge whatever price. Work for the National Treasury, by the way. They were not talking about conspiracies here. They write an entire economic policy document and put it in public and says, we must increase the participation of the private sector. You don't do that. So they call this program Operation Vulindlela.
Yeah.
Vulindlela means open the way. What are you opening the way for? For profit making. Because these areas in the past, the state has had monopoly of
Mashani, politically incorrect, you've been wanting it, and I was successful. Let me clap hands for myself. I was successful. I got a fighter sympathizer, and even better, Gitswerim Docket, Gitsweri Doctor. Doc, can you please just introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them who are you, where you from, and then we are going to unpack the politics that shapes what you do academically, socially, and everything.
No, thanks for the invitation. I must commend you for setting up the podcast and the work that you're doing.
Thank you very
brilliant.
much.
My name is Gumani Tshimomola. By academics, like you said, I have a doctoral project I completed at Wits University. That's why you're calling me doctor. I'm not a medicine doctor. And I'm from Limpopo in Venda. But I'm currently based here in Pretoria. That's where I live with my family, and I work as a researcher. I lead the research in the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, both in Parliament but also in the organization. And I'm also responsible for coordinating the work of Governance Task Unit in the EFF. So the Governance Task Unit in the EFF is responsible for overseeing the organization participation in governance in Parliament, provincial legislatures, all 9 of them, and all municipal councils where we're represented. That's what I do in the EFF. But also I do a lot of writing, both academic and leisure writing, although to other people might look like it remains academic, but it's not. The reason why you got in touch with me, that was a leisure writing. I was not writing anything academic, I just woke up one morning and I was inspired to touch on that subject, which we'll talk about later. But that's pretty much myself.
Yeah, man. The EFF is a brilliant idea. So on this podcast, I debate with people a lot. And people hate my assertion when I tell them that, no, guys, the EFF is the best political party in South Africa. And it's funny. The people who hate me the most on my podcast is EFF people. So, and I would tell them that, please debate me because in discourse, this is where I would land. I was wrong in this instance to preempt things that I've not done. So, but I believe until someone comes and convinces me otherwise that EFF is the best political party in South Africa, and I always insist, don't put in the number of votes because that's a mirage. So, I just want to understand. You said you are in charge of research. Like, what would be your normal day work? Let's say maybe you are sending a report what are you adding capacity
Yeah,
to people who are deployed? I just want,
that's
like, put it in layman's terms. So
no, that's a difficult question.
Yes.
Look, I mean, first of all, I don't think that fighters they hate you necessarily. You know, there's always an attempt to characterize the EFF all the time. And one of the things will be like fighters. I think that they're just passionate and combative in how they approach engagement. So don't take it as hate. Fighters are, in my experience of 10 years, both in the organization as one of the researchers, but also general outside. I'm a member of a branch in Ward 48. You know, if you ask my branch chairperson, he will tell you, hey, that guy. I don't hate him. We're just combative in how you engage. You know, so it's not a matter of hate. But look, I agree with you. You know, it's not so much the party in a sense of typical political party character that will lead you to say that the EFF is the best political party. I think it's the ideas that have founded the organization itself. But not just the ideas, but the process which led to the formulation of the EFF. So the EFF is not a situation where people just woke up one day, 2 or 3 friends, maybe led by someone with a very strong presence and profile nationally, and decided to form a political party. So if you follow the history of the EFF from 2013, first there was consultative engagements, and there were key clear questions on what is to be done. And there were proposals. So they didn't just land first at a political party. There were other options that were considered. You know, people may not remember this, but in 2013, there was a consideration of, do we form an NGO, continue to fight from inside the ANC? Do we form a trade union? Remember, the birth of the EFF was after the Marikana massacre, the killing of mine workers by the ANC government. So that's where it came from. So when they went to an assembly in Soweto, in Uncle Tomol, to ask that question, what do we do? So you can imagine there are a number of delegates, many of them, who get to engage on that question of what do we do. And that's where the formulation of the EFF come from. That's what makes it brilliant, right? That's the first thing. And then the ideas later come, the 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars. If you look at them, I often tell people that even if you decide tomorrow to almost start its entire membership from scratch, as long as it's founded on the same 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars and the complementary pillars, you're still going to get the same energy, same vibrancy, you know, same robustness, which some mistaken for hate, you know, because it's the ideas which that formulate that which it's not easy to put into a small box. It's a very big idea. So it's not only brilliant, but it's a big idea. It's a very big generational idea. Even if you don't accomplish it in this generation, as long as you continue fighting, those cardinal pillars will remain relevant, you know, up until such time that there is a miracle and then the ANC give people land, which I doubt it will happen. So a normal day at work as a researcher. So when I say I lead research, I have colleagues. You know, I may be in a position to perhaps maybe get instructions in terms of these are the expectations, and then I communicate with other colleagues. But what typically happens in a research environment is that, possibly even in academia, is that you will see that there's almost a level of engagement is between people who, in different fields, are doing different research, not based on seniority. Some may have been doing it longer than others, you know, but you don't often find that seniority being an issue or a key focus. We consider ourselves researchers of the EFF, but at some point I do take responsibilities of certain things that the leadership may guide in terms of what is expected, right? So a typical day, a lot of things have changed recently with the departure of Floyd. He didn't renew his membership, so I have worked for the past 10 years as a researcher in Parliament, right? So I will assist members of Parliament. They will ask questions. Either they are attending a committee meeting, they intend to submit a bill, or they want to write questions for ministers, member statements. They will ask me questions. What informs this? Where do I get this information? Why does this get implemented like this? What does this policy say? How many this and that? And then as a researcher, it means with the team I work with, we then try and answer those questions from a research background. And then members of parliament and the leadership of the EFF will then take those responses from us. Then it informs the work that they do, right? That's parliament. But then you still have the responsibilities to work with the organization outside parliament. The organization will ask the same question, like either the president, the SG, or any other of the leaders. They will ask you questions which, water, which areas have not had water in the past 6 months? So they may not have the time and the resources and the tools to go and find that answer. So you, from a research background, you have to maybe consult annual reports, annual performance plans of these government departments or municipalities, and then be able to articulate that in the form of a research report, and then they use that to then engage in their political and activism work. So that's why it's difficult to say a normal day. What does a normal day look like? So I mean, today it's the 18th. Yes. Of November. We have the National People's Assembly, the third National People's Assembly coming in December. And if I tell you what I did today, you will then realize that doesn't sound like research, but there's an element of research in it. The president must deliver a political report. He has a framework of how he wants it to be. He has drafters that are working on it, political drafters who work with him in writing it out. And then he asks you research questions. You want to find out about this point or the other points. What did we say last time? Has these statistics changed? So forth and so forth. So that is a typical day. That was today. So if you package it over a long period of time, just a lot of things that happen in between. But if you were to give that broader context of the things that we produce as researchers, what do they do with them? That's pretty much the research work we do in the EFF.
Doc, Meitzi man. So I come from
Meitzi.
Yes. Water man. Yeah, I mean, the most basic thing, if it was in Mars, we would have been in Mars. So I've always believed, I mean, without even reading any document, when I was young, that I could not understand, but I could not give intellectual backup to what I was thinking. How can water, to me it's almost like a mountain and a river. It's just one of those natural commodities that, why would someone, I mean, take this thing to own and generate income from something that just comes natural? I've always thought of that. And understand when I grew up there were no bottled water. You understand? Yes. So it has troubled me, and I've debated a lot with people. Guys, you can't tell me we can fly to Mars, but we cannot do desalination, I mean, our shoreline is very big in South Africa. So in South Africa, because we've got universities, we've got a lot of things, it still boggles my mind. Why do we speak of water as a scarce commodity? I don't know where you're going to start. It's just one of those things that amazes me.
When you say you don't know where I'm going to start, it's precisely because it's a difficult thing to comprehend.
Yes.
Water. There's one of the colleagues I work with, he's a member of the Central Command team, Vulindlela. He wrote a piece a while back and about water. And the essence of what he was writing is that water is life.
Yes.
If you were to begin anything without water, you won't go far. You need water. Water is life. You need water for almost everything. There isn't much you can do without water, and we take it for granted because some of us are privileged. You just open the tap and then it comes out. It's drinkable. It may be affordable for some, but for most it's not affordable, So we tend to think of water as this thing that is just constant in our life. But we take it for granted because it's constant and we have access to it. Those who don't have water, they will tell you that they can't live. And when they say they can't live, you take it for granted. When I was growing up, I grew up in Venda. When we were at primary school, we used to go and fetch water we'll walk a distance for many things, for washing our own hands, for cleaning classrooms after school. We were that regime. We were not these ones of cleaners who are paid by government, So
all cat like me.
So you got to interact with water, but also not from a point of access. You have to leave the school premises to go and get. So it tells you a lot. It says that there were no flushing toilets. It was pit toilet. It tells you that you couldn't just go outside and pour water to drink. You have to make arrangement. They'll put, small containers of water in glass. So you think that it's normal, but that's not normal. So for water to be available, dependable, clean, and affordable, it's actually a basic human right. So we must start thinking about it like water is life, but at the same time, it's a basic human right. It's in the Constitution. Under the Bill of Rights, the Constitution says that you are entitled to water. That's what it says. The same way you're entitled to housing and food. So you must have water, housing, and food security as a person living in South Africa, regardless of your class, your race, and background. You must just have access to water. But what is happening, and how we go to speak, me and you, is because I woke up one day and I listened to the Minister of Water, Mepheme Majodina. And she was very adamant that the reason why we have a crisis in Gauteng and Gauteng municipalities, she's blaming these municipalities. Then I realized that no, there's a much broader conversation we need to have. If we are not having this conversation to change the minds of those in the ANC, let's have it for documentation and record so that it's clear what's happening here. And you begin to appreciate that, firstly, there's a historical context of the crisis we have of water today. It did not just emanate from an accident of some natural disaster. No. If you look at the past 30 years, the background and the context is that we inherit this government post-1994 when we moved from apartheid to this democracy. There was a point when water and other municipal services was not provided to residents because the municipalities were intending to collect back the money. That was not the point.
Say it again.
At the beginning, when we took over government, let's say in the late 1980s, right? You will find the city of Pretoria as a municipal council with 10,000 residents, giving them water, clean, drinkable water every day, electricity, collecting waste. Those functions were not provided for by the municipality with an intention of recovering money which was spent to deliver the same service. In other words, municipalities were not selling services like it is the case today. Today, what they're doing, they're trying to match. If I come to your facilities and I collect waste, how much does it cost me? And then they take that amount and then they distribute it proportionally to the residents with an intention that if we collect that money back, then we'll continue to offer the services. So that's what changed. That's what we call service delivery with a cost recovery model. But it means that municipalities are now treating us like customers. We're no longer residents, right? So that's what happened. So on top of that, between 1994 up until today, the ANC does not invest in a new infrastructure of water. So they let the infrastructure that was there age badly, but they don't extend it. They don't say, okay, there are people who have now moved, there are 10, 15 informal settlements that we are going to formalize, but we must put water infrastructure. They don't do that. So with electricity, it was much obvious because we started not having it every day, right? And now it's coming to water. And when Mema Jodina was saying, no, the fault is with municipalities, I'm listening, I'm waiting for these municipal people to respond. They say, no, that's not the problem. The problem is you want us to sell a product to people who are entitled to it by the Constitution, but you don't give us the resources. But none of them said that. And these big metros, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, Nelson Mandela, they keep quiet. They are told by a Minister of Water National that, no, it's your problem that we have a crisis. But quite frankly, it's not. They are expected to deliver a constitutional obligation, which is give people water, they're entitled to it. Clean, drinkable. Not the situation that we find in Amanskraal. They don't do that. And then they don't say anything. I was like, okay, I'm going to wait. I wait. No statement to contest it. But then I thought, you know what? These are people who are, we may, as the EFF, be in some of these municipalities as government. But it seems like if the ANC National speaks, you're not allowed to contradict them at a provincial or local government. Because the MMC responsible for water in Tshwane, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni should have come out and says, no, wait. We hear you, how you're articulating the problem. You're saying it's our fault that we didn't maintain the infrastructure, that we didn't build new infrastructure, and that's why we're not giving people clean water. But that's not true. The reality is that you moved municipalities from treating residents like citizens and you start treating them like customers. So the way ShopRite see me and you is the way Tshwane see me and you now. You can't tell whether this is the state or this is private sector. If you look at the bill of a municipal account, they even break it down into items. They itemize it. They say sanitation, water, and the electricity, property rates. That's what you do to a customer. You know, that's what you do to someone who you are expecting them to pay a product for almost equal value in rent terms. But that's not what municipalities are created for. Municipalities are created essentially to assist the state to fulfill its obligation. And one of them, give people water, clean water. And they're not doing it at the moment. So that historical context is one which, in the current discussion about what is leading to this crisis of water, we find it's not coming out clear. You don't find it in a much clearly articulated way. And how I've got to be interested in water. Before I joined the EFF research team, I used to do research for an outfit at Vets. I won't mention their name now. But you can go find the report online. If you just Google Gumani Tshimomola plus water and then say PDF, some of the reports will come out. But there will be that particular report which I did around 2013, 2012 with a former colleague in Jogo. We went and interviewed a lot of municipal officials dealing with water. And all of them said the same thing. In majority, the report will touch on other things, capacity building, the hollowing of municipal officials, meaning that municipal officials moved out of the structures where they were employed, and then they started their own research outfits and consulting firms. At the end of the day, municipalities were left with a smaller capacity in terms of water purification, water infrastructure maintenance, and all those things. And then you find a situation where, with all those things considered, at the bottom line of what this boils down to, we don't have enough resources, meaning money, to be able to give everyone clean, drinkable, and affordable water. So what do municipalities end up doing? They choose. They choose, okay, let's give those ones in Waterkloof, in Centurion, in Midrand, clean water. We'll see what to do with these ones of Amanskra while we're at it. They may explain a project that didn't go well. That's just, a tip of the iceberg. But at the bottom of that iceberg, the large part of it is that there is no municipality in South Africa now, all 257 of them, that is in a position to confidently say, I can give everyone in my area clean drinkable water. That's the historical context. But let's move on to today. You blame municipalities, they're responsible for this crisis, right? Okay, let's say I'm willing to indulge you on that one. Take Ekurhuleni, for example. Ekurhuleni is a metro, like Tshwane, Joburg, Nelson Mandela, Thekwini. Most metros, if you look at them, that's where the economy of South Africa is. So you don't have an economy outside these metros that you can speak of. You will often find that in a municipality like, just a random municipality, Taung in the northwest, you'll find that the main economy there is the municipality. And everything comes outside the municipality, You may find some agricultural activities, but those agricultural activities, when you look at where their offices are, who do they bank with, how do they pay their workers? Everything is here in Sandton or in Joburg, because we have the administrative capacity of the entire economy based in Gauteng. That's the paper money side of it. But that municipality is expected to collect rates, taxes, sell water, sell sanitation services, but there's no one who can pay there. But when you come back to Ekurhuleni, there are large industries, there are large infrastructure facilities. OR Tambo Airport, for example, is in Ekurhuleni. There are a lot of factories. They are what we call large consumers of water, electricity, and because their infrastructure is big, they'll also be able to pay property rates, right? If they don't pay, just cut it off, they'll pay, because they still want to operate, right? But what it means is that these metros, in how they're designed, they are in operating as businesses. They are now in a situation where they have to increase the price of everything to those who can afford Because majority of the people around, those who can afford, cannot afford. So you are subsidizing the poor by collecting money from, not the rich, those who are operating in your area and are able to pay. The rich are the rich. I mean, we don't even call them the rich, the wealth. Those who have wealth, the wealthy, you know. But in most instances, it's those who are operating where you live. You will find a small panel beater. It must pay electricity, it must pay for what, otherwise you switch it off. But you are doing that aggressively because you want to take some of the money there and give people in Vulindlela, in Tembisa, water. So even the metros where there's economy, and they can collect majority of what they say is their revenue, that model is still not sustainable. Because over time, those who can pay, the number is going to be small. Those who can't pay, if we continue with this kind of economy, the number is going to be bigger. So the crisis of water and where it's going, you will find that in future, the same way we complain about electricity now, try and buy a kilowatt of electricity. Where I live, I have prepaid. Recharge 150. That thing lasts you 3 days. I mean, I might even be generous with 3 days for 150. You know, we are going to find the same situation with water where you must go and buy it like a time. Water. We're already there. You know, me and you may afford now and again maybe to stumble upon bottled water. But majority of people can't. But we're already buying it like prepaid, me and you. A bottle of water is between maybe 7 to 15 rand depending on the brand. You know. So we are being pushed towards a situation where we are told it's the fault of municipalities, and our own fault, by the way, because we are told we waste a lot of water. So that we get to a corner where we're buying water like a commodity, which is not. So the minister's characterization of putting the blame on municipalities avoid these dynamics, this complexity. But all this complexity start with, first you commodify the product. You say, give people water as long as they can pay back. Right? That's the first thing. And then the second thing, you said, no, we're not going to give you money for maintenance and building infrastructure. And then you come on top of that, when they collapse now, says, no, it's your fault, you didn't do it. That's the proper characterization of water situation in South Africa. Same with electricity. In the next 5, 10, 15 years' time, I'm telling you, there's going to be a whole lot of people who can't afford to buy electricity.
So, in those initial years, I mean, I saw Coca-Cola bottling water. And I was like, Coca-Cola bottled water. I mean, why do they play in this area? Because remember, I mean, for layman's terms, I mean, metsi. Something that if you don't get it at the river, you get it at the tap.
Yeah.
But why would a multinational, the biggest brand in...
No, they're preparing for privatization of water that is coming. You will be so familiar with them now, like the same way you're familiar with cola. Yeah, you'll be buying water like that. Yeah.
So from that day, I started elevating my debate to say, guys, there is a deliberate ploy to stifle certain, I don't even know what to call them, certain things in government and certain people in government to stop them from making provision free and available. Because you deny something, then you increase its value and its demand. And once that is done, you put, the capitalists will always have people ready to come and look as if they are saving a situation. I don't know what you call it in your writing. You are saying there are people who are players who are controlling water boards, and they even have the name of this thing. Please explain it to me.
I mean, look, you're correct. So this is the context, right? Let's not start with water. Let's start with what's happening. Look at education. So the word that they use will be defund, meaning that you take money away from that budget item, right? So they're defunding education so that me and you can take our kids to private schools.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They don't come out and says, no, we're going to privatize education. No. They just reduce the amount of money that they should allocate for education. And then naturally will gravitate towards private school because we want well-resourced infrastructure, we want our kids to have textbooks and teachers. We want a class ratio of 1 to 20, and you won't find that in a public school. The very same politicians don't take their kids to those schools. They are queuing with me and you in private schools.
Like the Sankarism oath. And
they will put that thing aside.
Yeah.
Because they are looking after their own interest now. Right? They will completely ignore that. Okay, Sankara for what? So education. Then they go to the police. They take the money for vehicles. There's no police visibility. There's no provision for uniform. You find a police woman dressed in a uniform that is no longer blue.
Yeah.
It's light blue. You can tell this thing is washed regularly.
Yeah.
It might not even fit properly. Not that they may be on the shape like me.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't.
It must remain like that. It must remain like that.
So they take money away from maintenance of police stations. The idea of going to a police station today, it's yes. There's no toilet. Have you ever been to a police station and asked for a toilet and find it and look at its condition? Mind you, police officers, our men and women in blue, they are working in those conditions every day. So you remove the money, everyone goes to fidelity. We start investing now in private security. We even invest in private security where we used to have community safety forums. We don't anymore. When I arrived at this facility, there's a private arrangement. And these are everyday things.
Yeah.
You move to health. You take money away from hospitals. What happens? We all go to private hospitals. You do the same with electricity, but in a much more sophisticated way. And I maintain, and I'm going to say it again and again. So there are people who are in government who, for whatever reason they've made it their project to say that the size of the state, meaning government, the judiciary, parliament, and everything that we consider the state, must be reduced by size. They have that belief. And it's not an exercise of cost-cutting measures. It's an ideological exercise. Because in their minds, when the state is small, it means that its responsibilities, it's only regulation. You make laws, you maintain order, and then you oversee the operations of the private markets, meaning the businesses, those who are investing. You just step on the side. But you can't do that if you're too big. So we must reduce the size of the state.
That's scary, dog.
So it's not going to be by accident that there's a project to reduce the size of the state. They are reducing it so that it goes back to a position where the public, what we say the public, meaning that public health, public education, public safety, intelligence and defense, is now reduced to such a small portion. We have no choice but to be dependent on private sector. They may argue that no, there are people who like to say that the public sector wage bill, meaning that the money we pay public servants is too much, right? We have 62, 63 million people, and the number of public servants is not more than 2 million, at least in national, provincial, and local government. So if you add the state-owned companies and public entities, it may be more, but it's not that much. So the idea that the number of public servants is too big is not true. It's simply a myth where it's used to scare people into believing that there's justification for wanting to reduce the size of the state. But it's ideological. The idea is to create a broader and a bigger slice for the private sector, what we call the investors, the markets, to then decide on every aspect of our life because of the absence of the state. So you can't do that if you reduce education size on the side of government and you leave water and electricity. You can't. So to take control of the entire system, value chain, you need water and electricity. You don't want the state there. You want the state to retreat, stay back, and allow capital to flourish. Make as much money as possible. That's the priority by capital, by the way. Make as much money as possible. How does it affect me and you? Do we still have a metro rail running from here to Johannesburg? That's secondary for them. Primarily, how do we make money? And as quickly as possible, even the investment, by the way, by capital, it's not long term. Eskom can build a coal power station that is going to last for many years, but they won't. They will want to invest in these funny things of intermittent electricity, of wind and solar, and not to dilute the importance of renewables, by the way, in the energy mix, but just to show you that these are not people who have long-term commitments. They're not going to come and start a nuclear project and leave you with it and say generate electricity for the next 50 years. So you need the whole package. Remove the public from the public services and then leave them with the private sector. And you can't do that without electricity and water maintained, and rail and ports. And we've already started. So 5-10 years ago, Eskom had a monopoly of generating, transmitting, and distribution electricity. And if you go back to the early 90s, the former CEO, Koko, will tell you, the former acting CEO, will always tell you that at some point, Eskom was producing some of the cheapest electricity in the world. And we know this because there are people who lived through that period where electricity was never an issue on the statement at the end of the month. It was always paid for, right? So now we have a situation where these people, and they work for the National Treasury, by the way. They were not talking about conspiracies here. They write an entire economic policy document and put it in public and says, we must increase the participation of the private sector. Let's put it differently. We must increase the opportunity of the private sector to make profit from public service. That's essentially what they're saying.
You're quoting verbatim.
It's not.
As a rumor.
No, it's not.
As a shwashwi.
When they published this document, there was a big war about who were the authors at the time. I remember in Parliament, Tito Mboweni, then the late, may so rest in peace. He invited some chaps from the US there. So those guys, they are your usual consultant for the IMF and the World Bank.
Let's find that name.
I'll find it for you.
Economic hitman.
Yeah.
Let's find that name.
I didn't want to go.
Let's go there.
That's what they're called.
Yeah.
So the IMF and the World Bank appoint these guys as consultants. Essentially, they're hitmen. They come to your country and says, no, we see that you have challenges with giving everyone water. You know what? Increase the role of private sector here. Then there will be efficiency in how you deliver water and electricity. They don't say there will be more profit making for the private sector.
Yes.
That's a foregone conclusion. You don't have to wait for them to say it. You have to just appreciate and understand that's the context under which they give you this guidance. There is nowhere where they go and give this consulting advice, and in 10-15 years, people are happy and living better off. You won't find a record of that. That's why they're called economic hitmen. They've done a lot of damage in South America. The instability around even the most basic thing, housing, water, electricity, sanitation, is because of these guys. You know, they came here, invited by Tito Mboweni at the time when people raised it. He says, no, people suffer from inferiority complex, challenge these people, debate them if you consider yourself of an equal in terms of intellectual capacity. But that's beside the point. You have people who are driving certain ideologies here. It's not a matter of simple debate whose speech comes out sounding nice. That's not the case. The case is when they leave, that draft becomes a public policy. It's driven by the Treasury, the National Treasury. The current DG of the National Treasury, Duncan Peterson, at the time he was not the DG, was the Deputy Director General, responsible for the Economic Policy Unit. He is the one who you were sending comments to in terms of input in that document. This is someone who has been exposed to the IMF, to the World Bank systems, and the Treasury in its entirety, in any case. It's an outfit, a remote satellite institution for the IMF and how they get to influence society. You know. So that document then gets revamped in terms of how it's positioned. So it's no longer a National Treasury document alone, which says that in these areas, ports, energy, and water, and sanitation, we must increase the participation of private sector. And I told you what that means, right? It means we must increase the opportunities for profit making. It doesn't say anything, by the way, about jobs. If you look at what it says about jobs, it's scary. They, in their review of the first phase of what I'll talk about in a second, say they want to create 1 million jobs every year from this entire economic reform that open up a whole lot of opportunities for some people to make lots and lots of billions, right? So they go and call it something called Operation Vulindlela. So Vulindlela means you're opening the way. You know, this thing of operation comes from intelligence community, like
yes.
operation this, operation that.
Yeah.
So these guys essentially are running an intelligence program openly. You don't design an education reform program to give people to give children food at schools and then you call it Operation Nutrition. You don't do that. So they call this program Operation Vulindlela.
Yeah.
Vulindlela means open the way. What are you opening the way for? For profit making. Because these areas in the past, the state has had monopoly of delivering them. The state had ESCOM to deal with electricity security, Transnet, rail and ports, water, which will come to. There's an arrangement there. There's no municipality in this country that buys water from private sector. And in that post, I give figures. It's a lot of money. Annually, it's billions. Right? So, you have a situation where they said, this is operation, meaning intelligence, Vulindlela, openly. And when I say these people laugh, why do you call it Operation Vulindlela? What intelligence are you running? Okay, that's fine. We now understand that this is an operation that they are running, and then Vulindlela. Vulindlela meaning they are opening the way for profit making, right? So in energy, they must open the way for those independent power producers so that they go and make. This thing has nothing to do with me and you. We don't need anyone to open the way for us. We just need the affordable, dependable electricity, which ESCOM was giving us, by the way. It's okay, they're in this project. On the issue of water, the DG of water, Phillips, he cited in this first review of Operation Vulindlela. They say if it wasn't for Duncan and Phillips, we wouldn't be where we are. Okay, the National Treasury was able to deal with energy alone. So with ESCOM is a huge debt, about over 400 billion of debt, right? And I mean, one day we'll discuss that debt and its composition and why we have it. But let's just say they have a debt of over 400 billion. They're desperate, they need money. The National Treasury says, no, okay, it's fine. We'll package something, we'll call it ESCOM debt relief. But we'll give you money in bits and pieces on conditions. One of the conditions is we open up the space for private participation. Aggressively. There was intentions before, but it was not as moving as fast as they wanted it. But also, the money that we're giving you, you must pay the debt. You can't use it to build new generation capacity. Even when it's clear that what ESCOM needs is additional generation capacity. We need to burn more coal. We need more hydro facilities in the dams. We need nuclear. Generate more electricity. The more electricity you generate, the more economic security as a country you have, but the more affordability is. This is not a textbook explanation. This is the history of ESCOM that we know for a fact. Right? Okay, they said no. Open that space. So ESCOM had no choice. ESCOM had to submit to the National Treasury conditions. And those conditions didn't make sense, by the way. How do you give ESCOM so much money and insist that they must not generate new electricity? That's Duncan and his colleagues there at the National Treasury. The ANC agrees to it, right? Now, with water, it was not obvious. Okay, how do you go about it? So there are water boards. So there's something called, there's an act, a law that regulates how water is handled in this country. So if you are a municipality, you don't have your own water purification system. There are dams, and then there are water supply from other parts of the country. Mahalis, the Fal, Lesotho. So when the water comes to your tap from the municipality, it means Tshwane went and did what they call bulk purchase of that water from a water board. Right? And then the water board is not a private company. It does not exist to make profit. Its entire purpose, by legislation, formulation, composition, and character, it's supposed to make sure that it takes the water, it's clean, it puts it in its system, it builds large infrastructure, and that water ends in your house. That's why it exists. It can exist forever. The intention is not for the water boards to make money. Val, Amatole, Machalis, Umgeni, Lipelle. They don't exist to make profit. It's like Department of Home Affairs doesn't exist to make profit. It exists to give you an ID and make sure that it is a population register that is neat. If we say Gumani's ID, I appear, gender, race, if they have my cell phone number, there it is. But the government does not exist for profit. So these water boards, because they are receiving money from their customers. Who are their customers? Municipalities. So now municipalities are customers. They go and buy water and then they get it and they give it to me new. In the mind of the ANC and government, when they moved from the old system to the one where whatever amount you spend, you must recover it selling water to Gumani. Ivan. Okay. Now, 30 years, we know it's not working. Those water boards, they are owed so much money. So much money. The same way, by the way, municipalities are owed money by residents and government departments. So there's one issue that we're all missing. Lipelenkumbi, Machalis, Val, Umgeni, all these water boards, if you were to think about one balance sheet, they're government. It's one income, an expenditure statement, financials of government. It includes all this. So what point do you get to this one or that one, therefore we must take this one's money? It doesn't make sense.
So it's like the phrase for us laymen, because economics always want to dampen down our intelligence.
Yeah.
The world debt. Yeah, yeah, it always confuses me.
No, because there's more nuanced propaganda and ideological battle behind those things than what they're actually happening. So I agree with you. I mean, you're being scared into accepting future decisions that are going to be made. So this one of water, they said, no, these water boards are owed money, a lot of money. So the National Treasury, Duncan and Phillips, they agreed that no, let's withhold the money that they get from government, these municipalities, so that we force them into paying government institutions the debt. So it means, if you look at that list of municipalities, they are not going to get money that they used to get to deliver basic services, because the Treasury agreed with water to hold the money, and once they have that money, then they pay to these water boards. But I can tell you now, you can do that. You can do that for the next 10 years. You don't solve the problem I spoke to earlier. The model in which you fund municipalities is broken. The tip and that. So if Memajo Dina was to say, okay, let's say all these water boards were not being owed money. They were fine. We give them, we write off the debt, whatever municipality owed them, we give them the money. Will we have clean water for everyone tomorrow? They should have asked the DG that question. And I can tell you now, the answer was going to be no. So they are using these to frustrate these water boards and the municipalities. And they are going to come down the line very soon, by the way, to say, no. This model is not working. These water boards are not working. There's an act now that intended to create a super body that will oversee all the water activities. Right? And that act has some merits to it. Serious merits, because if you look at the debate in Parliament, the EFF goes there and supports certain amendments. So we can't have the absence of a coordinated program around who gets which water, how and when. We need that. But we didn't agree to that with an intention that when we are done with this body, we move to the next stage where we say, no, we're even giving licenses to private companies. Right? So these water boards must now go and compete with, Umgeni must compete with a private company in Durban to supply water to eThekwini. That's what they're saying. So, and when you do that, what's going to happen? At the beginning, these private companies will put a lot of money. And then they'll say for a liter, for example, this is half a liter. Okay, half a liter will sell it for 5 rand. There's no way they can sell this for 5 rand. With the requirements that they have in terms of infrastructure, bulk infrastructure. There's no, we can sell this for 10 rand. No, it's your loss. You are not competitive. And then, close. Now that guy is left alone there. This thing moved from 5 rand to 15 rand. You cry. And say, okay, well, you can go buy from Umgeni. Umgeni is not there. It's gone. That's the strategy here that is being used. And this strategy is not being implemented by ghosts. No, this strategy is being implemented by people who are even congratulated in public. The DG of Treasury and the DG of Water were instrumental in the first phase of Operation Intelligence Vulindlela.
I was doing Hammanskraal yesterday.
Very painful.
Very painful. And I don't even know if I should read what a comrade from there who wrote to me, she was saying. It's very painful because this thing is a commodity. Let me see if I find her. It's very painful, and I want people to be easy with my reading. I hope I don't reveal her. Thank you. Commander, here in Hammanskraal, especially in Ward 75, we have water tankers that are not reaching everyone. Firstly, they bring water during the day, while 95% of people work and school living, no one at home. Secondly, they have their own people where they deliver water continuously with an interval of 2 days, while others by 2 to 3 weeks without water tankers coming their side. Lastly, there's no intervention on covering those who are at work during the week. So we resort to buying drinking and cooking water while we are billed for water that no one is using for consumption. Please, interview is needed. I'm one of those who don't get water tankers in our street while we are at home. Now it will be the 4th week without water. So this is someone who came, because I was at Roifal yesterday. So you can understand a person like this when they text this. So it's bad.
No. You're absolutely correct. That background in that context, and even putting names of individuals who are involved in, so that they're able to respond publicly.
But it's dangerous
in this conversation.
It's dangerous, Doctor. As we speak, when we were there yesterday, those comrades were telling me that this thing is even becoming more dangerous because the more we speak, the more we are targeted. We are gonna end up having bodyguards. There's a guy in Mpumalanga, sorry to interject. They call him, I forgot his name. He spoke about these dangers of water tankers. He's in hospital. He was shot. How many shots? He's in hospital. He survived that shot. I don't know for how long.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to bring you to an idea that you spoke on a more strategic level,
Yeah.
But on the ground, there are also players who deliberately sabotage a system because they benefit from a crisis that is prolonged.
Yeah.
You understand? So, and it's very dangerous to speak out against it.
No, look, I agree with you. You know, one of the things that tend to happen with most conversations, and these are not conversations in academia, by the way. When we have a problem, we tend to only appreciate it to our level of understanding. But I just want to challenge you and those who are going to watch this episode. So, there is a concept, and this concept, you will appreciate why the criminal nature that creeps in is deliberate. So, in this concept, the idea is that things are fine. You have Church Street from here to the CBD. It has traffic lights. They're working what we call robots. So a guy who make roads stand there and look at it and says, hey, so if this road is here, okay, how do I make money? And then he says, no, but if it has potholes, they'll be forced to hire me to patch the potholes. Right? And then he goes and dig potholes. And then you say, okay, who around here can fix the potholes? He says, no, I'm available. I have infrastructure, I have this and that and that.
I'm ready.
And then you say, no, how did these potholes come about? It rains a lot here, and the structure of this road is not proper. There's no drainage. Say, okay, put some drainage also on the side. You put those drainage. That concept, there's a brilliant scholar from Canada, Naomi Klein. She argues that it's called accumulation, meaning that people make money through dispossession. So they have to dispossess other people for them to make money. But the nature of the dispossession involves a lot of destruction. It involves a lot of killing. Like at a war scale, like if you know what's happening in Palestine now, the genocide there, someone is going to go back and rebuild everything from scratch there. They're waiting, they have plans. In Gaza, they have plans that there must be a street here, there must be a road here, there must be a petrol station here. They have all those, there must be a hospital and school and all that. So for you to accumulate, you have to first collapse the infrastructure. We know this about water tankers. Those guys go and damage your infrastructure, and then you can't give people water, and there's no way of trucks. I mean, currently we're sitting with shortage of trucks, by the way. Water tanking trucks. You know,
There'll never be enough.
There'll never be enough because the infrastructure is damaged. So from a strategic level down to me and you, it's not by accident that there's a lot of killings and there's a lot of crime involved. It's the structure of how the treasury and how they see the increasing of participation of private sector happening, which will have to first necessarily go through this pain. We went through the pain of load shedding for 10 years, more than 10 years. We went through that pain. If you say they are privatizing electricity today, no one is going to listen to you. You can write it with whichever fancy language you want. There's no one is going to listen to you.
Because they just want electricity.
They are commissioning transmission lines now that are going to be owned by private sector. The National Treasury says we'll even take the risk. It's called de-risking investment for you to attract private sector. You are going to rely on a private company to move electricity from a power station to a consumer. The day you fight with that private company, what's going to happen? And remember, electricity and water are part of security. When you talk about security apparatus of the state, it's not just the defense and the military. No. Energy, water, rail, and then you can talk about defense capabilities. So what you see in Amanskral and in Mpumalanga, the killing and everything, it's part and parcel of how you create chaos. And then out of this chaos, the hope is that private sector will come later on, rescue the situation, and then entrench itself in these spaces so that it's not easy to remove them. But it also means that they can charge whatever price they want. So these things are not isolated. They are connected, and it's a puzzle that there are people who are sitting around putting them nicely, and they are celebrated. They are competent technocrats. I mean, when last did you hear in this guy, Dr. Phillips, when there's water crisis? I mean, people died in Amanskral. If it was an accident at a stadium where people died watching Pirates and Chiefs, you were going to know who's the chairman of PSL, who's the CEO of PSL. You were even going to know who was the doctor of that game, responsible for safety. But you don't know who's the DG of health. You can't tell me now how he looks. But you know Amanskral very well and the problems that people are going through. You know who was shot way in Mpumalanga. You know about the tender of Johannesburg that is being adjudicated now of tankers. Millions that are being spent there. They're going to announce the appointments very soon.
But there are players way at the back.
There are players at the back. And it doesn't look like corruption because it's so sophisticated. It looks like policy reform. That's what they call it. But it's a policy reform that, at the end of the day, it deprives me and you of a certain standard of living, reduce us, and then at the end of the day, there are people who make a lot of billions out of it.
Okay, Doc, we are at the tail end now. So what I want to do is, I want to make justice to this. You are an economic freedom fighter that believes in our lifetime this thing could be achieved.
Yeah.
And I argue on my podcast for a very long time, and I still do argue that, in fact, most of our dreams are actually pipe dreams because of the way our economic model is presented to us. Post-Codesa, there hasn't been anything. There hasn't been anything that changes the face of capital. And I argue that all political parties are paid to do certain things. As long as we do not have Bosaki, Boserel, who can fund back. So in the States, they call them dribble, shut up and dribble. Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Those billions that people are saying they are borrowed. How do they determine they are borrowed? You cannot use those billions to empower black people. They say shut up and dribble, So in South Africa, it's almost seen like that. This Boserel and stuff, those people do not. I was watching this thing with Julius Malema speaking about those three pilots he took from Seshego to make them pilots, and he was saying, why can't MTN and Vodacom just build a township school fully fledged and stuff, because it's just peanuts for them to do that. But just to cut the long story short, I want to give it back to you to say I do not believe capital will sponsor any political idea that can change the means. In fact, the previous deputy president, he spoke about his interaction with Cyril Ramaphosa, where, and I'm not quoting him verbatim, where Cyril said, Maramchana, ora, can I sponsor an idea that wants to disempower me? And people forget that thing. So all I'm saying is, you guys who are economic freedom fighters, noble, and we love it. We are just scared. You come so confident and aggressive. You need money from the people that you say you are going to take from them. And I do not see it happening. So with all the problems you presented, please tell me, how are you going to achieve them?
We need water. We need water. We need water for everyone.
Yes.
You know, but on a much more serious note now. This conversation that you're having about different stakeholders, and I mean, I like that you don't just simply, have a strict framing of. I like that you allow conversations to happen.
Yes.
Because what ought to happen is that something cannot stay new forever. Even the idea of economic freedom in our lifetime won't stay new forever. And this is not an idea of the EFF, by the way. And these comrades were in the EFF. They believed this thing when they were still in the ANC. They had a huge economic freedom march. So for them, you can't separate at least those who we know that genuinely they believe what they are saying. You can't separate them from economic freedom. Now, the question you are posing is, how do we finance this revolution in a way in which me and you can still talk about why do they want to privatize water? Without worrying that when I walk out of here, one of the guys who are preparing to take over a water bulk infrastructure will come and says, no, I'm not going to finance you anymore. That's where you're at.
Yes.
Now, there's quite a number of building blocks to that question. The bigger building block is that when I say the idea of economic freedom won't stay new forever, it will get to a point where it will have to be believed the same way people believe that we are entitled one man, one vote. We need that freedom. At some point, it became so much that people were willing to die for it. People died for it. So even this idea of economic freedom, it won't stay new forever. It will get to that point where you may discuss modalities on how you go about it, but the fact that there has to be economic freedom, that will be believed. Secondly, South Africa is one of the richest countries in the world. And Africa, we are blessed with serious endowment of natural resources. Platinum, chrome, gold, although there isn't much of it now. I mean, they looted most of it. Coal, we're blessed with those resources. Now, there's what I call the practicalities of converting these resources into wealth. That is a known process because there are mining companies that do that. They've done it here, they do it in Botswana with diamonds, The guys who are building cell phones now with the microphone chips, the cobalt. The only question that needs to be answered in that equation is when we are done mining and we beneficiate, who gets to enjoy the return of that? And we are not asking a question that is new, by the way. It has been answered by other people. The very same companies that invest in mining, they're investing in Botswana and they don't mind giving the government of Botswana shares in those mines. They are practically nationalized. The president of the EFF always talk about that point because it's the simplest illustration that at the moment we are supposed to be benefiting from these resources, but we are not. Once we answer that question, over and above believing that we are entitled to this economic freedom, you have solved two problems now, from the bigger, broad building block to this one in the middle. And then the last one. South Africa labor market, what we call workers. And I make this argument. It is only sustainable for as long as there are more people who are unemployed. So you think that, hey, this thing of joblessness, a big crisis, must create jobs. No. Perfect. This is where capital wants you. Why? So if you have 10 people who are unemployed, but you are willing to give one person a job, and then you say to that person, oh, I hear you have a Gumani, I hear you have a PhD from Vets. Nice. But I can only pay you 15,000. Right? And I'm like, no, I've been working for 15 years. I have a PhD, this guy wants to pay me 15,000. Now I'm not taking that job. He has no problem with letting you go because there are 9 more other people. It's a technical economics term for that, but we'll talk about it some other time. It's deliberate. You need as much people unemployed as possible so that you are able to control the cost of labor in a much more desirable way for capital to then still make money. So we must not think about this thing of labor and think about it in a sense of the ANC is failing to create jobs. Oh, well, that's true. But at the same time, there's someone who likes this situation. So you believe there could be economic freedom. You go and deal with the strategic core, which is minerals and land. Obviously, you can't do it without land. You must first expropriate all land without compensation and make sure that there's equal redistribution, depending on who's using it for what. But you need to nationalize minerals and come to an understanding that we are all benefiting here. And then once you deal with that, you then come to this part of labor. If you create jobs of the nearly 12 million people who are unemployed, you just create jobs for half of them, 5 million people tomorrow. So you're all working. Do you know how difficult it will be to convince a person who has a master's degree in geology to take some pay of nothing? Because you will say, no, I will go and now go to the market. And then you look and there's no one. Now you don't even have to go to the market. Now you just advertise. They will come to you 15, 20, disparate. I can only pay you 15,000. Yeah, I will take it. So those 3 building blocks are related to the idea of not depending on anyone financing the revolution. But this way without chasing away capital, we start saying there's no space for private sector. Because there's space for private sector, there's space for innovation, for science and technology. There's space for people to run businesses, successful businesses. But that should be premised on we control our land, there's sovereignty, we know where our minerals are going and who's benefiting from them, including ourselves. But at the same time, majority of us are in the labor space more than being outside. Because when people are not in the labor space, by the way, you are not only exclude them from jobs, they wake up every day for 365 days and do nothing. So this revolution doesn't need money. What needs money is elections. That one I know. It was very difficult. Hey, elections, yes, sir. If you've ever watched elections, it's painful. Physically, emotionally, financially, you know. People will just wake up and agree to set up a meeting somewhere called Seoul in the Eastern Cape. You must drive from East London. If you fly to East London from Gauteng, you must drive there for about 4 hours, 5 hours. It means you must hire a car. So elections need money. But we must separate this all the time. We must not put the principles, the cardinal pillars, and the idea of economic freedom in the same basket with those things of elections. Because these are separate matters. I agree, we need state power. With state power, you can have economic power. With economic power, you can then change society.
Okay. You know, most comrades,
yeah.
I throw a question at someone. If he doesn't answer it, I do not want to pursue it. The doctor
will still ask money
the doctor didn't want to tell us who will fund this revolution. He spoke a lot of English, and I'm at the depth of my resources, as it were. So I don't want to prolong this thing. So because there are a lot of questions, I mean, lots and lots of questions. But I want to let the good doctor go because I don't want to hold him at ransom. But there are lots of questions. But we'll dwell because we'll sit together, we'll talk about it. But it's time for me to release him. Doc, I think we've got around a minute. To close it off. Please close it off for us so we can go.
Look. At the moment, whether you talk about water, Maskral, whether you talk about electricity, there isn't anyone in South Africa in the current political landscape who has a clear, coherent, and believable program that can lead this country into economic freedom except the EFF.
Thank you very much. Machine political correct. Let me leave it at that. Lots of questions, of course, but let it go. Thank you.